On a forgotten, dusty world far from Earth, Leo was a scavenger. The planet was a place of broken machines, rusted metal, and forgotten memories. There were no bustling cities, no busy roads, just empty land scattered with scraps of once important technology. Leo had learned to survive by fixing things others had thrown away. He spent his days digging through piles of scrap, looking for anything that might be useful. It was during one of these long days that Leo found her. He had been working in an old scrapyard, a place where abandoned ships and machines lay in ruins. The sun was setting, painting the sky in deep oranges and reds when he heard a soft noise. It was a weak sound, almost like a gasp, coming from underneath a pile of broken metal. Leo froze. The noise wasn't natural. He had worked in scrapyards for years and he knew the sounds of machines. This was something different. Slowly he moved toward the sound, his heart beginning to race. What could it be? A stray animal? A piece of machinery? Or something else entirely? He dug through the metal carefully, not wanting to damage whatever had made the sound. After a few minutes, he uncovered something unexpected, something that made his breath catch in his throat. It was an alien girl, lying half buried in the dirt and scrap metal. Her skin was a deep shade of blue, almost like the ocean, and her long, tangled hair shimmered with a strange light. Her body was bruised and bloodied, and she was unconscious. Leo's heart raced as he realized she was still alive, but barely. For a moment, he hesitated. He had never seen an alien like this before. Was she dangerous? Was she a prisoner of war? Was she from another planet or galaxy? His mind raced with questions, but his instincts took over. He couldn't just leave her there to die. Gently, Leo lifted her from the debris, cradling her in his arms. He could feel her heartbeat, weak but steady. Her breath came in shallow gasps. He didn't know what to do, but he knew he had to get her help. Without thinking, he carried her back to his small home, a shack on the outskirts of the scrapyard. It wasn't much, but it was the only place he had. As he laid her down on a makeshift bed, Leo looked at her more carefully. Her alien features were striking. Her eyes, though closed, seemed to glow faintly, and her face was delicate with high cheekbones and a sharp jawline. She looked young, maybe a teenager, and though her body was bruised and battered, there was something almost otherworldly about her. Leo worked quickly, grabbing medical supplies from a shelf nearby. He had learned how to patch up his own wounds over the years, and he hoped his skills would be enough to save her. He cleaned her wounds as best as he could using bandages and ointments and made sure she was comfortable. She didn't wake up, but Leo could see the faint rise and fall of her chest. At least she was breathing. He sat by her side for hours, waiting for any sign of life. When the sun rose the next morning, Leo was still there, his eyes heavy with exhaustion. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the girl stirred. Her eyelids fluttered, and she gasped, taking in a sharp breath. Leo stood up quickly, his heart pounding in his chest. "Hey," he said softly, trying to sound calm. "You're safe. I found you in the scrapyard." The girl's eyes opened slowly, revealing the deep glowing blue orbs that seemed to shimmer in the dim light. She looked confused, frightened, and weak. Leo stepped back, giving her space, but he watched her closely, ready to help if she needed it. She tried to speak, but her voice was weak, barely above a whisper. "Where am I?" Her voice sounded different from anything Leo had heard before, but there was something familiar in it, something human, even if her words weren't in a language he understood. "I'm Leo," he said, trying to reassure her. "You're safe here. You were hurt. I found you in the junkyard. What happened to you?" The girl's eyes widened slightly, but she didn't respond immediately. Instead, she seemed to be struggling with something, perhaps a memory or a feeling. Her hands trembled as she tried to sit up, but she winced in pain and fell back onto the bed. Leo noticed the marks on her arms, burns and cuts that seemed to be a part of her alien anatomy. He knew he had to be gentle. "Don't try to get up yet. You're still healing." For a long time, the two of them just looked at each other. Leo's mind raced with questions. What was she? Where had she come from? How had she ended up alone in the scrapyard, left to die? He wanted to know more, but he didn't want to push her too hard. After all, she was still a stranger to him. He couldn't help but wonder, though, why had she been abandoned? And more importantly, who had done it? "Do you have a name?" Leo asked, his voice soft. The girl hesitated again, her glowing eyes searching his face. It was as if she was trying to decide whether or not she could trust him. Leo waited patiently, not pushing her, but feeling a strange pull in his chest to help her. Finally, she spoke again, her voice still shaky but clearer this time. "Kara," she said softly. "Kara," Leo nodded, feeling the weight of her name. It was beautiful, just like her. "Well, Kara," he said, trying to lighten the mood. "You're safe now. I'll make sure no one hurts you again." Kara didn't smile, but there was a flicker of something in her eyes. Gratitude, perhaps, or maybe hope. Leo couldn't be sure. But for the first time since he found her, he allowed himself to relax just a little. Little did he know that this was just the beginning of a strange, unexpected journey. As Kara recovered, Leo would learn more about her past and about the deep connection they would soon share. But for now, in that quiet, dimly lit room, they were both alone together. Two survivors, one human and one alien, bound by fate and the unlikely bond they had formed in the scrapyard. The days following Kara's recovery passed slowly. Leo had become her protector, guiding her through the strange new world that surrounded them. While Kara's health improved, her memories remained foggy, and the trauma of her past was still etched deeply in her mind. She couldn't remember much of where she came from or why she had been abandoned in the scrapyard. But one thing was certain: she had nowhere else to go. Leo, on the other hand, had grown accustomed to being alone. He had lived years without the company of anyone else, simply surviving by fixing machines and scavenging for parts. Yet, despite his quiet and solitary existence, Kara's presence felt like something he had been missing all along. The more time they spent together, the more he realized how much he enjoyed her company. It wasn't just that she was different. She was like a piece of a puzzle he hadn't known was incomplete. Each day, Leo taught Kara the basics of surviving on this harsh, forgotten planet. He showed her how to fix the broken machines they came across, teaching her about the technology humans had left behind. She was an eager student, her intelligence sharp despite the confusion she felt. Leo also began to teach her English, though it was a slow process. At first, Kara's words were strange to him, and he often had to guess what she meant. But over time, their communication became more fluent, and soon, they were able to speak to each other with ease. Kara, however, was not just a student. She was also a mystery. As Leo spent more time with her, he began to notice the unusual things that happened when she was around. At times, when she was upset or anxious, her body would glow faintly, the light pulsing with an intensity that was almost unnatural. Leo didn't know what it meant, but he suspected it had something to do with her alien physiology. He asked her about it one evening as they sat by a small fire outside their home. "Kara, what happens when your body glows like that?" Leo asked gently, not wanting to make her uncomfortable. She looked down at her hands, which were glowing softly in the firelight. "I don't know," she replied, her voice filled with uncertainty. "It's always been like this. When I'm afraid, or when I feel strong emotions, it just happens." Leo nodded thoughtfully. He had never encountered an alien with such powers before, and it made him more curious about her origins. But Kara seemed hesitant to talk about her past, so he didn't press the issue. Instead, he changed the subject, telling her stories about his own life, his struggles, and how he ended up on this desolate planet. Kara listened intently, her blue eyes reflecting the flickering flames of the fire. She seemed to be absorbing every word, every detail. She had never known kindness like this, and it made her feel something she had never felt before: hope. As the weeks went by, their bond deepened. Leo became more than just a protector to Kara. He was her friend, her teacher, and in many ways her family. And for the first time in her life, Kara felt safe. She no longer felt like an outcast or an abandoned child. With Leo by her side, she felt like she could face anything. One evening, as they sat on the porch of their small home watching the stars, Kara turned to Leo with a serious expression on her face. "Leo, what happens if they find us?" she asked quietly. Leo looked at her, his brow furrowing. He knew who she was talking about, the raiders who had left her for dead in the scrapyard. He had always suspected they would come looking for her, but he hadn't said anything to Kara. He didn't want to scare her. "We'll be ready," Leo said, his voice steady. "I won't let anyone hurt you." Kara didn't say anything in response, but she seemed to relax slightly. Leo could see the fear in her eyes, but he also saw the trust she had in him. She believed in him, and that meant more to him than he could put into words. But despite Leo's assurances, the fear of the raiders never fully left Kara. Every night, She lay awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering when they would come for her. She had seen too much of their cruelty to ever forget it. Yet the longer she stayed with Leo, the more she began to think that maybe, just maybe, she could build a new life here, away from the pain of her past. One day, Leo and Kara were out scavenging in the nearby hills when they stumbled upon a hidden cave. It was a strange find. There were markings on the walls that looked like they had been made by an ancient civilization, but Leo couldn't decipher them. He had always been more of a mechanic than an archaeologist. Kara, however, seemed to recognize something in the markings. These are symbols from my people," she whispered, her voice trembling. Leo turned to her, his heart skipping a beat. "Your people? What do you mean?" Kara stepped closer to the walls, her hand brushing over the markings. "I've seen these before in the ruins of my home. I don't know where this place is, but I can feel it. It's connected to my past." Leo watched her closely, sensing the weight of her words. "Do you want to explore it? We could—" But before he could finish, a loud noise interrupted them. A distant, low rumble echoed through the cave, followed by the sound of something heavy moving in the distance. Leo's instincts kicked in immediately. He grabbed Kara's arm, pulling her back into the shadows of the cave. "Stay down," he whispered urgently. "It could be the raiders." "They're getting closer." Kara nodded, her face pale with fear. She pressed herself against the cold stone wall, her glowing skin faintly visible in the darkness. Leo's hand instinctively went to the gun at his side, ready to defend them both if necessary. The sound of heavy footsteps grew louder, and soon, a group of raiders appeared at the mouth of the cave. They were looking for something, or someone. Kara felt a chill run down her spine as she realized they were searching for her. Leo held his breath, watching them move past their hiding spot. He knew they had to stay quiet, stay hidden, or they would be caught. But just as they were about to slip away, one of the raiders turned and spotted something, a glimmer of light from Kara's skin. "Did you see that?" The raider growled. "Something's in there." Before Leo could react, the raiders began charging toward their position. It was time to run. "Kara, we have to go now," Leo shouted, grabbing her hand and pulling her toward the exit. They dashed through the cave, barely escaping the raiders as they gave chase. Leo could feel his heart pounding in his chest as they ran, but he didn't stop. Not for a second. He had to keep Kara safe. They burst out of the cave and into the open, but the raiders were close behind. Leo could hear them yelling, their heavy footsteps closing in. There was no time to think, no time to plan. All Leo could do was run, trusting that somehow they would make it out alive. As they sprinted through the hills, Leo's mind raced. He knew they couldn't outrun the raiders forever. But as long as he had Kara by his side, he wasn't going to stop fighting.